When it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles defense, it's starting to feel like the early 2000s in a good way. I'll tell you why coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome into this Tuesday edition of the show, Eagles fans. It's brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the entire app. The Philadelphia Eagles are 2-0 with a big matchup coming up this week against the fellow 2-0 Los Angeles Rams. Another 2024 playoff rematch against a team trying to get their lick back with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Kansas City Chiefs were not able to do it. We will cover that Eagles-Rams game tomorrow through Sunday, but still want to take another episode to take a look back at what was a nail-biting victory, 20-17, over the Kansas City Chiefs. And there were a lot of reasons the Eagles were able to win that football game, but the main reason they won was because of the Eagles defense. It was because of Vic Fangio's game plan. It was because of the performance of all three levels of that unit. The defensive line was great. The linebackers were great. The secondary was great. And coming off a season where you were the number one ranked football team in the entire NFL on the defensive side of the football, coming off a year where not only you were number one in the league, but you were the youngest starting defense in the entire National Football League, it's hard to not get early 2000s vibes with that unit. It's hard to not feel like for the first time since 2000 to 2008, right? That Brian Dawkins, Jim Johnson era, it's hard to not feel like this is the first time since then the Eagles are finding not only sustained success on defense for more than just a 1 to 2 year flash in the pan, really great unit, but this feels like for the first time since the early 2000s that they can be an elite top of the league unit for 5, 7, 10 years. Like, this is a team built for the long term on defense for the first time since the early 2000s. Like, the Eagles offense, they've been able to have that kind of sustained success over the years with many different eras of Eagles football. And the current iteration of the Eagles offense, they've been together since, at this point, 2000, 2001 for 5 to 6 seasons. They're all in their prime. They're all in that second big contract. Most of them are making, top 10 annual contract salaries based on their position from a yearly annual rate perspective. The defense, though, it felt like maybe because of the offense being set up for the long term, the defense always felt like it was built through veterans, short-term contracts, maybe big-name free agents, trades, but they weren't always building through the draft. They weren't always going with young players. So when they did have a great defense in 2017, it didn't really last that long. When they had a great defense in 2022, it was pretty short-lived. Now, because they have a great defensive mind like they did with Jim Johnson, now they have Vic Fangio, because they have first and second round picks, young players just loaded across, flooding the defense on all three levels, I am starting to think that they can be who the early 2000s Philadelphia Eagles were on defense. And that's not only who they looked like all of last year, but outside of the first quarter against Dallas, they've looked like that unit in 2025 as well. They held Dallas to no points in the second half in that first win week 1. And then they hold Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, to me, the greatest play calling quarterback duo in the history of the NFL, to only 17 points, to hold Patrick Mahomes under 200 yards, to hold their running backs to a combined 53 yards rushing. This defense looks absolutely dominant already. And I think although the offense has been struggling through 2 games, especially through the air, I would actually much rather have the offense be the one struggling, because I think they will figure it out. Like that offense is just too talented, too experienced, too proven, too talented to not put up points. Whereas the defense, there are a lot of moving parts. There were a lot of free agents that they lost this offseason. There were starters that they traded away, like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They're very young. They're very inexperienced. For the defense to be the one carrying them right now, I actually think is a positive for the longevity of this season. And so stock up We're doing stock up, stock down on the show today. Stock up to the entire defense. Vic Fangio has this unit running like a well-oiled machine. You would think all these guys have been playing together for 10 plus years, and a lot of them are new starters. A lot of them have only been in the system for a year, but you wouldn't know it. The three levels of the defense just work so perfect together, like in sync. It's unbelievable. And Vic Fangio's plan this week was masterful to completely change the game plan against Kansas City that you had in Super Bowl 59, where you pretty much just rushed for the entire game because the four-man pass rush was completely dominating. Knowing this time around you had to blitz more to get to Patrick Mahomes, to play man coverage, to play more aggressive style, knowing Kansas City's receiving core was so banged up. I loved it. I love that he went with the matchup over his scheme being the end-all, be-all. He adjusted his scheme based on the new challenge he was faced with, the new team in their current situation. He adjusted his scheme based on what the Kansas City Chiefs could or could not do. And looking back at the tape this morning from Eagles-Chiefs, I was even more blown away with the defense than I was in the postgame show Sunday night after that 20-17 win. So stock up to defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, and stock up to the entire Eagles defensive line. I was definitely concerned about the edge rushing group and the depth of the interior after losing Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, and Brandon Graham through retirement or through free agency. I was a little bit concerned, but when you look at how good already Zadarius Smith was, like that looks like a home run signing from the jump. He had a sack, multiple key pressures in that game, some really nice run stops. His size and experience is exactly what we wanted for that edge group. He looks like he is the new BG of that edge rotation. Nolan Smith is becoming potentially the best edge setter in the entire NFL. He looks like the best run defender on the edge in all of football. I mean, that turnover on 4th and 1 was absolutely incredible. And I know he doesn't have a sack yet, but he is consistently winning his pass rush reps, getting to the quarterback. Josh Uche was yet again the highest graded Eagles defender. He has the 3rd highest pass rush win rate in all of the NFL through 2 weeks. I mean, they have a really deep 4 to potentially 5-man rotation on the outside. And that's not even including what they have on the interior. Jordan Davis, the breakout is here, everybody. Like that Dexter Lawrence Vita Vea step, it looks like Jordan Davis is taking that. He had a sack taken away in the first half. Honestly, if a couple plays go the other way, like if he can get Dak Prescott to the ground a couple times, Prescott slipped from his fingertips. If there isn't a penalty in the back end, Jordan Davis very realistically could already have 3 sacks in 2025. Like he is getting to the quarterback, and I didn't think he could improve as a run defender because he was so good already through his first 3 years, but he completely shut the run game down against Kansas City. He had 2 pass deflections. He batted the ball down twice. He already has 4 on the year. And listen to this stat. Jordan Davis actually has the most solo and assisted tackles combined among all defensive linemen. I mean, this defensive line is like 8 to 9 men deep. I don't want to say it's already better than the 2024 championship level defensive line, but they're just as elite. Like, I don't think that regression is coming that maybe we were concerned about in the summer. And that's not even including, of course, Jalen Carter comes back in and instantly was the difference maker that the entire offensive line had to gravitate to open things up for everybody else. And how about Moro Ijoma? I mean, I'm not done here hyping up the defensive line. He leads the Eagles in pressures through 2 games with 8. Listen to the performance he had against Kansas City. He had that big sack in the 4th quarter in a huge moment in a 1-score game. He had 6 pressures on Pat Mahomes, 5 hurries, 2 quarterback hits, and a 22.2% pass rush win rate. Oh, and by the way, Jalix Hunt quietly leads the Eagles in pressure rate. So I just rattled off in like 3 to 4 minutes. I mean, how many guys was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, we're talking about 7 to 8 to 9 defensive linemen that are making plays for the Eagles through 2 weeks. Byron Young, quietly a very solid rotational player on the interior. Stock up to the Eagles' entire defensive line. Stock up to Vic Fangio's game plan against Kansas City. Stock up to the entire defensive line. And one more stock up before I take a break from the defensive side of the football. Stock up to rookie safety Drew Mukuba. I mean, this guy was everywhere in this football game. He had a sack coming off a huge blitz, a big-time tackle on 3rd and 1 that eventually led to the turnover forced by Nolan Smith on 4th and 1, had the game-winning interception in the back of the end zone. When I did a show this offseason saying that Drew Mukuba was the most important player that they added this offseason, the game against the Chiefs proves my point. They needed to replace that playmaking ability of CJ Gardner-Johnson if they wanted to avoid any 2023-like regression. They have that with Drew Mukuba. I mean, look at all the ways he affected the game, getting that sack, that big hit on 3rd and 1, an interception. He has CJ Gardner-Johnson's ball hawk nose, but he has even more versatility. He has a more diverse skill set than Gardner-Johnson that makes me think more about Malcolm Jenkins when I'm comparing Mukuba to other players at this position, other roles that fellow Eagles have had in the past on the defensive side of the football. I mean, Mukuba was everywhere, and I think if he continues to play like that, he's going to be a Rookie of the Year finalist. I mean, this was a home run draft pick for Howie Roseman. Jahad Campbell was everywhere, spying Patrick Mahomes in the second half. He looks great, too. I mean, the fact that the Eagles lost Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, who are balling out in Arizona and New England, Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, Nakobe Dean to injury, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and they're not batting an eye outside of Adoree Jackson, who we'll talk about later. It's so impressive. So I guess you got to say stock up to Howie Roseman as well, because normally the year after a Super Bowl run, when he has to replace starters that cash in elsewhere, normally he struggles. The fact that he is kind of, so far through 2 games, it's early, but kind of just hit this offseason out of the park. It's a complete home run. Just continues to add to the lore of Howie Roseman. So stock up. The entire defense I wanted to talk about, because watching the film this morning, I was completely blown away by that performance. And the defense is the main reason they're 2-0 to start the 2025 season. Stock down, though, coming up next. Who struggled in that performance? It was definitely an up and down showing from the Eagles in a close win. We'll get into that coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Plus Picks awards than anybody else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard and every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence throughout almost any season. Like our players, they sweat every detail at Mazda, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Guys, today's show, we are also sponsored by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a single spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. I mean, I've linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted, subscriptions I didn't want anymore, was able to start building my wealth a lot better. Use the promo code, get involved. Locked On NFL is the promo code. Get involved with Monarch Money at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with our promo code Locked On NFL. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. We are continuing stock up, stock down. After a 20-17 win in Arrowhead, the Eagles have now won 3 straight games against Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and those supposed dynastic Kansas City Chiefs. And they won that game mostly because of the defense. As I said, the second half adjustments that Fangio was able to make throughout that game, it was incredible. The only thing that the Chiefs were really able to do on offense was have Patrick Mahomes make plays outside of structure with his legs. He led the Chiefs in rushing with 66 rushing yards, I believe, and a rushing touchdown. But they adjusted not at halftime. Fangio said he hates the word halftime adjustments, but throughout the game they adjusted, and they put Jahad Campbell almost as like a pseudo spy on Mahomes, and it worked out incredibly. Like Campbell was all over the field. That guy, I would love to see his, like if he had one of those step counters on his wrist, like he was going sideline to sideline. The rookie put in work week 2. So that defense was incredible. And like the offense, they had some big-time performers. I mean, stock up goes to Devontae Smith. He is one of the most clutch players in the NFL and just never gets his due. Like, he just never gets the credit for being one of the most clutch players, not only on this football team, but the entire NFL. It just feels like he always is the one that makes the kill shot against Kansas City. I mean, even though they didn't win in Super Bowl 57, if they did, it would have been because of Devontae Smith's heroics in the fourth quarter. In 2023, he landed the kill shot in the right corner of the end zone to set up the game-winning touchdown in Arrowhead to get revenge. You look at 2024, the dagger in Super Bowl 59, that was Devontae Smith. This game, on third down in a one-score game, goes up and gets it over Trent McDuffie, one of the best corners in football, sets up another game-winning touchdown to beat the Chiefs on the road yet again. Like, Devontae was incredible. To see him bounce back after dropping a very similar type of play, a similar type of throw on the left sideline earlier in the game, to see him bounce back and make up for it in the biggest moment was incredible. It was such a clutch play by Jalen Hurts as well, figuring out the blitz. But overall, I would say the offense has definitely been inconsistent through 2 games. That might even be an understatement. One person I want to point out specifically, stock down, unfortunately, is to Grant Calcaterra. And I would honestly say that entire tight end group that includes Dallas Goedert, stock down to Dallas Goedert because he was not available in this game and they really needed him. Like, he's injured all of the time, and this was a really bad time to get banged up because, when you looked at Calcaterra and the abysmal blocking that he had and how often the Eagles were running 12 personnel and, reduced splits, playing really close to the line of scrimmage, how Kansas City's just stacking the box and Philadelphia didn't spread them out. Like, you need in those moments your tight ends to come through. And Calcaterra was bad. Like, he barely, I think he had 1 catch. He did not block well. Kylan Granson was kind of a whatever. I think in motion, he kind of opened up some things in the run game in the first half. But the tight end game, especially for the rushing offense, it was pretty brutal. I think with Goddard being a free agent next year and just not being reliable from a health perspective, with Calcaterra just not taking the step this year that maybe some expected after a pretty promising year in 2024, and Granson kind of just being a whatever role player, I do think the one position that Howie kind of has to overhaul in the 2026 offseason is tight end. I mean, they're not good enough at that spot right now without Dallas Goedert. It's such a massive drop-off, and it kind of makes me a little more annoyed than I even was at the time of the draft in the 3rd round when the Eagles traded down instead of taking Texas tight end Gunnar Helm, who I really liked. He was my guy from that draft class, has had a pretty good start to his rookie season in Tennessee. It's hard to complain about the work Howie Roseman's done in drafts lately, but that's the one thing, if I could go back and undo from this past offseason, I would, is getting another tight end, whether it was through the draft or free agency, because Goddard's going to get hurt throughout the year, and without him, with the way the Eagles were running their offense, personnel-wise, Calcaterra was not up to the challenge. Like, he was pretty brutal. So I would say stock down to Grant Calcaterra and Dallas Goedert for not being available in the entire tight end group. They need to overhaul that position this offseason. Stock down as well to Adoree Jackson. I know Vic Fangio said today in his press conference that Adoree was better than he was week 1 against Dallas. I mean, that is a very, very low bar. So sure, I guess. Had a nice pass deflection, forcing completion deep along the left sidelines early in the game. He did break up that deep bomb to Tyquan Thornton in the right side of the sideline down the field in the 4th quarter. But even in that situation, in that play, his head is just spinning around. He's got no idea where the ball is. He's got no idea where Thornton is. His positioning was good. Like, he had the right angle, but he wasn't really ready to make a play on the ball. He kind of got lucky that Thornton dropped it, and Jackson made a play. Like, he got his hands up and he made contact with the football and with Thornton. But it felt like kind of by chance, like he kind of got lucky. I think the first play he made was textbook. And there was another nice play that he clicked and closed in on the ball. Should have punched the ball out of Hollywood Brown's hands, but Hollywood made a great catch. I think that was in the first half. But overall, Adoree, again, still felt like at times a chicken with his head cut off in this defense. I mean, completely runs into Reed Blankenship. He's had 2 America's Funniest Home Video blooper caliber mess-ups in 2 weeks. He's not wearing gloves in this game, so he's not going to be ready to make a play on the ball for an interception. He actually got his hand hurt twice in this matchup. I'm just telling you, I'm nervous. I said it on the squad show on Sunday night. They've been able to win 2 games with Adoree as their starter, but I'm just nervous this is going to come back to bite them at some point if they keep Jackson in the lineup. If Fangio keeps him in the lineup, there's going to be a moment in a playoff game or a big spot where number 8 allows the big play. I don't know. I'm sorry. I still don't have faith in him. It was definitely a better performance than against Dallas, but it still was not a good performance. And Jacorian Bennett was equally as bad in his snaps. What a pathetic attempt to get off his block on Hollywood to get Patrick Mahomes down to the ground before his rushing touchdown. It was a pathetic attempt, pathetic effort. Please just give Kelee Ringo a chance. Like, Vic, how bad can Ringo be in practice that we're just not giving this kid a single shot to play over these 2 scrubs? I don't know. I mean, does Ringo know something about Fangio? I have no idea what's going on with that, but please give Kelee a chance. I've seen enough through 2 weeks already of number 8, number 23. As a corner guy, as a former cornerback myself, I can't do it anymore. I can't watch those 2 play football. It's been really bad, and Fangio doesn't seem to agree with me, but I've seen what I've seen on tape, and I don't love it. Stock down as well to Reed Blankenship. Reed, I think, a couple times through these 2 games has been the reason that the zone coverage has kind of got blown up, and there's been some open plays deep down the field. Now, they've been lucky that, CeeDee Lamb dropped some balls. Patrick Mahomes overthrew Tyquan Thornton. But I do feel like, Adoree ran into Blankenship. It just has no spatial awareness. But I do think that play was on Reed. I think somewhere along the lines, they got messed up in zone coverage. He got beat by Travis Kelce. That should have been a touchdown on the Mukuba pick, but Travis dropped the ball and tipped it right up in the air to Mukuba. Reed had that penalty against Dallas where he took Ferguson's head off and set Dallas up, inside the 15, inside the 10, to potentially take the lead. Overall, I feel like Reed hasn't had a great start to the season either. So, again, the sky's not falling with any of this, but those are my stock downs because that game, it was sloppy, and there's definitely room for improvement. I would say stock down to Grant Calcaterra and the entire tight end room, Adoree Jackson, and Jacorian Bennett at corner, and then Reed Blankenship at safety. On offense, we got to talk about the passing game, though. Is this a Kevin Patullo problem? Is it a Jalen Hurts thing? Is it just the defenses they've been playing have done a really good job? How do the Eagles fix the passing game? We'll talk about that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. All right, guys, before we talk about a potential Patullo problem for the Eagles offense, let's talk about FanDuel, our sponsor for today's show. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use across the entire app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game that much more exciting, whether you're watching the Eagles or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. I mean, the safest bet in the world right now is just taking a Jalen Hurts anytime rushing touchdown. He already has 3 rushing touchdowns this year, which leads the NFL. He had 2 touchdowns against Dallas on the ground, 1 against Kansas City. Easy bet. Just bet $5 on FanDuel. You'll get $300 back in bonus bets across the app if that bet wins. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, guys, let's talk about it. The Philadelphia Eagles passing game looks bad through 2 games. That's just a fact. The numbers back it up. The tape backs it up. I'm not going to rush to any giant conclusions about the Eagles passing game, or else I'd be a hypocrite after going through the 2024 season, considering what they looked like through the first 4 games of the year. And again, I've kind of accepted to a degree who the Eagles are as a passing offense. Since 2021, we kind of know who they are. With constantly changing coordinators, play callers, it's going to lead naturally to inconsistency. And that's going to continue to happen because either Patullo is going to be great and get a head coaching job at some point within a year or two, or he's going to be bad and they're going to fire him and bring in a new play caller. Like, that's just, when your head coach is not the play caller and you're a good football team, normally, unless you have a Vic Fangio, really an old coach that's just not going to get a head coaching job anymore, and he does a good job, normally you're going to have inconsistency at that spot. So I've kind of accepted to a degree the passing game, especially early on in seasons, will probably be a little bit inconsistent. A lot of big performances, but some mediocre performances as well, even with the personnel they have. Jalen Hurts as well, like, he's elite in a different way. Is he an all-time great passer compared to some of the other stars of his caliber? No. He is elite, like I've said 1,000 times in the show. He's elite like Russell Wilson was elite early in his career. He's elite like Cam Newton was elite. It's in a different way. I don't think he's Jalen Hurts is a very good passing quarterback. He's gotten so much better over the years. Like, he has really come a long way in his development. I think he's a very good passer, but is he an elite passer? For the deep ball, sure. But in all areas as a passer, no, I wouldn't say that. So there is an acceptance point that I've kind of come to with this to a certain degree. But in a vacuum this year through 2 games, let's call a spade a spade. I'm not calling for his head already. I'm not saying he should be fired. But the job that Kevin Patullo has done so far, it's not been good enough. And I don't think this, although I just said Jalen is not an A-plus passer, it has not been Jalen Hurts' fault this year. The passing game inconsistencies like it was to start the 2024 season through 4 games, through even the first 2 games. It has not been on Jalen Hurts. I think most of it has been on Kevin Patullo. And again, no giant conclusions here so far. I think they will get better. They're going to have some massive passing performances this year, but so far it's been very vanilla. It's been very conservative. And I am starting to hate the in-house promotion of a first-time play caller as the offensive coordinator. I am starting to hate that move, especially when you have such a talented veteran offense, proven personnel, star power across this unit. I'm starting to hate giving the keys to that kingdom to a first-time play caller when you're in a Super Bowl window. But let's give Patullo some time. Overall, though, he's got to fix it. Like, nobody is open. Routes take way too long to develop. They don't interact. The routes do not interact with each other. They do not help open each other up. AJ Brown almost ran the entire game against Kansas City. He ran the exact same route. It was an inside 3 to 4 step slant. It felt like every single route he ran was exactly that. And it felt like no play that they designed on offense ever felt like it was meant for A.J. Brown. He yet again felt like a decoy. Devontae Smith was the one, and as much as I love Devontae Smith and I think he's an elite player, they should draw plays up for. The fact that it feels like all the manufactured touches have gone to Devontae or even Jahan Dotson or the tight ends and running backs and not to A.J. Brown. Like, I know A.J. is so good that he can win on his own and doesn't need a lot of help, but he's so elite. Why not make it even easier for him to get the ball in space and let him do what he does best? Like, they need to start designing things more for A.J. Brown. I don't know. Like, it's been bad. Kevin Patullo has no answers for pressure right now. Jalen Hurts finally figured it out with that deep completion to Devontae on 3rd down to win the game. But overall, like, Patullo kind of got humbled by Spags. And I just hate the conservative approach. I think there's a middle ground between, like, yeah, they should commit to the run. That's what they do best. That's how they won a championship last year. Jalen Hurts doesn't want to turn the ball over and has a safe mindset, which, again, I totally respect. Stick to your identity. It's what got you there last year. It's what won you a Lombardi trophy. It's what's helped you win 2 games this year. I get not completely wavering from that. But there is a middle ground between that and what they're doing right now. Right now, they are way too conservative. Jalen Hurts has just 2 completions of 10-plus air yards this year, which is 34th in the NFL. He's one of just 2 quarterbacks whose average target depth is under 6 yards. For a top 5 all-time talented offense, that can't happen. Even when you have a run-first identity, even when your quarterback is trying to be a game manager and not hurt this football team because they're so talented, and I love that about Jalen. even with that being said, there is a middle ground between playing that kind of style of football and playing scared. I don't want to say they're scared, but they're kind of playing like they're afraid to turn the football over. You can still take chances, be smart about it, but there is such a thing as a controlled aggression. There's a lot of teams across the NFL that are aggressive and don't turn the football over. Josh Allen is so great at that. Lamar Jackson is very good at that. Justin Herbert, I hate to use Herbert in this analogy, but Justin Herbert this year, so far through 2 games, has been very good at that. You can take chances and not, especially like when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert when he's healthy, Jahan Dotson's a former first-round pick, Saquon Barkley. Why are we scheming up this offense as if they have the 2019 practice squad level skill position group out there instead of an all-time, I think a top 5 all-time talented offense? Like, I'm sorry, they should be boat racing teams at times. Like, it feels like they think this is their only way they can win football games. That's not true. Like, they are winning football games that way, but they are capable of beating teams down and beating them by multiple scores, by double digits. And I feel like right now they're not coaching that way on offense, and they're not playing that way. There is, again, find the balance. I'm not saying air it out 40 times a game and just chuck it deep downfield and not care about turnovers. I'm not saying be who you were in the first half of 2023, but at least be who you were at the end of 2024, like in the playoffs against Washington and Kansas City, against Pittsburgh at the end of the year, the Cincinnati game. They're just not explosive enough right now, and they know it. And again, it'll come. I'm not saying I'm concerned or the sky is falling like I was at this time last year, but through 2 games, I have to admit, like, yeah, that is the big problem right now. That's why these games have been close. That's why the offense, numbers-wise, it doesn't look great. I think they're being too conservative. They're being too vanilla and predictable. And Kevin Patullo so far doesn't look great. But I think there's a lot of time to change that, just like there was last year. And I think it will change. But right now you got to call a spade, and that is the biggest area of improvement needed for this football team. Let me know what you think. Hit us up on X, at LockedOnBirds, at DiBiase, LOE. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Eagles. Thanks so much for making us your first listen each and every day. Until tomorrow, thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.